Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a really unflinching look at the daily reality of pharma quality assurance. We're going to examine exactly how we spend our hours, how we allocate our limited mental energy, and why the current industry paradigm of constant busyness might actually be working against the very safety and compliance goals we're trying to achieve. It's a critical, ground-level examination of focus, time, and the true, uncompromising nature of what it actually takes to build real quality into our systems. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the illusion of productivity. Look, we all know that feeling, right? That utterly exhausting day in pharma QA. You've got a sheer volume of tasks, urgent emails practically screaming for immediate answers, the relentless pinging of status updates. Honestly, it can be entirely overwhelming from the literal second you log in. But we need to pivot right here and ask ourselves a really tough question. Is all this frantic, nonstop busyness actually translating into better quality? Well, no, because the hard truth is quality requires deep work. It's exactly that simple, and honestly, it's exactly that demanding. Real quality, it doesn't just happen by accident, and it absolutely doesn't happen on the surface when you're just putting out daily fires trying to survive your shift. And deep work requires focus, complete, undivided attention. You can't just skim the surface of a highly complex pharmaceutical manufacturing system and expect to miraculously find the hidden flaws or uncover the real root cause of a deviation. You have to totally immerse yourself in it. You have to block out the noise of the open plan office, shut down those instant messaging apps, and actually give your mind the space it needs to see the full picture. Without that absolute focus, you're really just reacting to symptoms instead of fundamentally curing the disease. In our industry, there are so many things that look and feel incredibly productive. You're firing off emails, jumping from one emergency meeting to another, giving rapid-fire status updates, quickly signing off on routine batch records just to keep the production pipeline moving. It really feels like you're accomplishing a ton. But the work that actually moves the needle, the work that actively prevents a critical audit observation from a regulatory agency or stops a massive product recall before it ever happens, that work is fundamentally different. It requires uninterrupted thinking. It requires stepping completely out of that rapid-fire reactive chaos and deliberately finding the quiet mental space to go deep into the data and the underlying processes. Which brings us to Section 2, defining true deep work. Let's get analytical here and look at what actually makes up the core of our profession. Notice the sheer cognitive weight of these specific tasks. Deep work and quality happens when you analyze root causes well beyond those easy, surface-level explanations like human error. It happens when you are forced to mentally connect the subtle trends across dozens of complex deviations and CAPAs over a 6-month period. Think about the intense mental stamina it takes to review massive sets of validation data with absolutely full attention to detail, or what it requires to actively challenge the embedded, long-standing assumptions in your manufacturing processes, or to painstakingly design new engineering and administrative controls that genuinely prevent a deviation from ever recurring. These are not trivial, check-the-box actions. They are heavy, highly complex, and utterly vital to the integrity of our quality systems. So the absolutely crucial point here is this. These essential tasks cannot be done while multitasking. No way. You simply cannot design a robust preventative control or rewrite a critical operating procedure while keeping half an eye on your incoming team's messages or listening to some other meeting in the background. True analytical QA work demands an absolute singularity of focus. You have to be entirely present in the data, giving your brain the processing power it actually needs to map out cause and effect. Multitasking is literally the enemy of thoroughness. And in pharma QA, a lack of thoroughness inevitably leads to systemic vulnerability. Let's move right into Section 3, the danger of fragmented attention. If we accept that QA requires this intense level of deep focus, we have to look closely at what happens when that focus is constantly broken. We kind of have to treat our role like a complex investigation. The reality is, major quality problems are rarely obvious. They're hidden deeply in subtle patterns, minor inconsistencies, and weak signals spread across thousands of pages of documentation. This is exactly why skimming is so dangerous in our industry. The clues aren't flashing in neon lights waiting for you to notice them. They're concealed within the system. It's like a giant puzzle, and you have to play the detective. You have to be looking closely enough and carefully enough to unearth those weak signals before they snowball into massive, catastrophic failures. And those vital, weak signals, they are so incredibly easy to miss when your attention is fragmented.
When you're constantly bouncing between a quick status update, a brief email check, and a rushed kappa review, your brain simply cannot process the underlying inconsistencies. A minor data discrepancy in an audit trail suddenly just looks like a harmless typo, right? Rather than the symptom of a much larger systemic data integrity failure. You lose the thread of the investigation every single time you are interrupted. The fragmentation of our attention is exactly what allows critical quality issues to slip right by us undetected. It creates blind spots in the exact places we are supposed to be looking the closest.
This takes us to our final section, Section 4, Finding Moments of Clarity. Okay, so we've identified the problem, but now we really need to empower ourselves to do the work that actually matters. Strong, effective QA professionals are highly intentional about how they manage their days. Step 1. They actively protect their time for deep thinking. They block their calendars for hours at a time, they go offline, and they set hard boundaries with their colleagues. And step 2, they physically and digitally step away from the noise. They understand that to do their job correctly and to ultimately protect the safety of the patient, they simply cannot be constantly available to every minor distraction that pops up. They treat their focus as a total, non-negotiable resource. They intentionally engineer their environment for focus. They clear the mental deck so they can finally sit down, look closely at the data across all the noise, ask the hard questions, and truly answer, what is the system really telling us? Because at the end of the day, true quality is never built in rushed decisions made between meetings. It is built in moments of clarity. It's in those quiet, highly focused, completely uninterrupted moments that the true, vital work of quality assurance is actually accomplished. That is when the connections are made, the root causes are discovered, and the real preventative measures are born. I want to leave you with a final thought to sit with as we wrap up today's explainer. Ask yourself this honestly. When was the last time you had uninterrupted time to truly think through a complex quality issue? If you can't remember, or if it's been weeks since you've had an hour of pure focus, well, it might be time to fundamentally change how you work.